This young hustler, who in an attempt to earn his convicted mother's respect, sets up a brothel for her. With the help of his two crazy friends, they hire different kinds of beautiful girls. However, their new venture makes them the target of a powerful kingpin, who at that moment is also grieving on the death of his only son. As tensions escalate, the hustler and his friends find themselves caught in a dangerous game with high stakes. Hey guys, welcome back to I Am Movies. Today we're looking into the 2010 neo-noir thriller comedy film titled Neon Flesh. But before we jump into the details, make sure to show us some love by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now let's get right into it. The movie begins by introducing Ricky, a street hustler who has been surviving all alone on the streets from a very young age. Ricky's mother, Pura, who used to work as a prostitute, had abandoned him at the age of 12 before getting arrested and jailed for peddling drugs. The only memory Ricky has of his mother is an old photo of her holding him as a baby. While walking, Ricky meets Infantita, a trans prostitute whose dream is to become a big-screen actress. Infantita tells Ricky about an adult movie director she just met who promises to feature her in one of his movies. However, the movie director demands that Infantita needs to first get her manhood cut before anything. Soon they arrive at a pub where Ricky meets his childhood friend Angelito, a street hustler who pimps prostitutes out to men for a living. However, Angelito has a special prostitute named Scrag, whom he happens to be in love with. Soon, El Nino, a young man who works for Angelito, brings Ricky a suit. Angelito tells Ricky that the suit is a present from him, and he wants him to wear it to welcome his mother, who will soon be released from prison. Ricky notices a bloodstain on it, and El Nino tells him that he had to beat up a man to get the suit. Afterward, Ricky takes Angelito and El Nino to his place, stating that he plans to show them something. On getting to the place, Ricky unveils a box of money he had been saving, and then begins to tell Angelito his plans to set up a brothel, since he will need his help to hire prostitutes. Ricky says he plans to build the brothel, and name it Hiroshima, to please his mother, who had always wanted to quit being a prostitute for a long time. However, Angelito tries to convince Ricky against it, by reminding him of how his mother had abandoned him on the street as a child. Seeing Ricky's seriousness, Angelito reveals to him that brothel's business is usually run by powerful and dangerous people who may come after him, advising that they stick to being ordinary street hustlers instead. Ricky, who appears to be determined, tells Angelito that he's doing it for his mother, because he doesn't want her to end up back on the street once she gets out. However, Angelito warns Ricky to count him out, and then leaves in anger. Later that day, police arrest Angelito at the spot where he pimps his girls. Soon the policeman begins to question him about the whereabouts of two cops who recently went missing. At the same time, El Nino, who is now running to escape from a cop, turns to face the cop and then knocks him out cold. Meanwhile, a police vehicle carrying Veronica, the naughty daughter of Police Chief Charlie, accidentally knocks down Angelito's dog named Rocco. One of the police officers suggests they abandon Rocco, but Veronica protests that they must take it to a vet. Later, El Nino returns to Angelito's place with a stolen car and tells him that he has a surprise for him in the trunk. Upon opening the trunk, Angelito, who is expecting to see his missing dog, is shocked to see a pregnant black woman instead. El Nino then reveals that the lady is an illegal immigrant whom he had rescued from an immigration officer after she escaped from them. Later, Angelito shows Mobila, the pregnant lady, to Ricky as a potential pimp, but once again warns him about a powerful and brutal gang boss named Chino, who receives cuts from every illegal business owner in town. Angelito reveals that Chino will make his life shitty if he finds out about his brothel, but Ricky says his life can't get shittier than it already is. With this, Ricky offers Angelito 3,000 euros for Mobila, but he rejects it. Seeing Ricky's determination, Angelito agrees to help him set up the business regardless of the risks involved. After inspecting the property that Ricky plans to use for his brothel, Ricky sets out to the street to speak to potential clients that can patronize them, telling them how hot the girls he's got are, but they only keep asking him to pimp Scrag to them, which he refuses. After many failed attempts to secure any client, Angelito offers Scrag to Ricky as a prostitute. Ricky thanks Angelito for giving Scrag up for his business. The next day, Angelito takes Ricky to an underground human trafficking den to buy more girls. While at it, Angelito tells Ricky about some of the industry's big players present, starting with Frida, the queen of porn. Afterward, Angelito spots Loco, one of Chino's henchmen, and tells Ricky that it will be risky to let Loco know that they've come to get girls for their brothel, because he will tell Chino. Shortly after, Loco leaves to receive a call, and they quickly seize the opportunity to buy 3 girls before he returns. Back at the brothel, Angelito asks Ricky to address the girls, but he flops as he doesn't have any idea of what to say. However, Angelito takes over and tells the ladies that they now owe them, and that they now have to pay back by working as prostitutes for the brothel without leaving the premises. On hearing this, one of the ladies named Irina protests it, stating that she prefers to leave. This act annoys Angelito, but Ricky manages to calm him, and then tells Irina that they have her papers. This means that she can't get a job anywhere and will be deported once the police arrest her, since she's an illegal immigrant. With this, Irina decides to stay since she has no other option. Moments later, El Nino attempts to impress Mobila with his muscles. It is then revealed that El Nino and Mobila have feelings for each other as they are often spotted staring at each other. Later night, they all gather outside to celebrate the launch of Hiroshima Brothel. The next morning, Ricky goes to pick up Pura, his mother from prison. Upon her release, Ricky excitedly gives her a warm hug, but she doesn't seem to recognize him. Ricky tries to convince Pura that he's her son, but she soon gets angry and even warns him to stop calling her his mom. Afterward, Pura goes to take a taxi and offers to pay by giving the taxi driver a blowjob, but he refuses. With this, Pura goes back to meet Ricky, who then drives her home. Upon arrival, Pura feels impressed sighting the brothel, and Ricky reveals to her that he specifically set it up for her. However, Pura tells him that he's got the wrong person, as she still refuses to be called his mom. At the same time, Pura reveals to Ricky that she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's while in prison. As soon as they step into the brothel, Mobila goes into labor and Pura helps her deliver a baby boy. Shortly after, Ricky and Angelito hear Scrag screaming from upstairs and they quickly rush to go check on her. Upon arrival, they see a client attempting to kill Scrag, and Angelito angrily proceeds to beat the client up. While at it, Angelito suggests that they drown Mobila's newborn baby in a bucket of water, but Ricky angrily yells at him for suggesting such a barbaric thing. In response, Angelito hits Ricky and then threatens to kill the baby himself. Later that night, Ricky calls one of his friends and requests that he help him sell the baby to any rich couple looking to adopt a kid. Moments later, Ricky goes to carry the baby away from his sleeping mother. However, El Nino, who is already getting attached to the baby, confronts Ricky, asking him why he wants to take him away. Ricky manages to convince him that the baby will be safer where he's going. Afterward, Ricky hands the baby to Infantita to keep for a while, pending the time they find a couple to sell him to. Later, Mobila begins to cry and refuses to work after realizing that her baby is now gone. At the same time, Pura, who has been taking drugs for her Alzheimer's, reveals to Mobila that she has plans to return to prison, but Mobila begs her not to leave. Pura, feeling compassion for Mobila, promises not to go anymore, and then comforts her to stop crying. Later, Mobila walks into the dancing area and she soon grabs the attention of the movie director, who immediately begins to lust after her. At the same time, Ricky steps out to make a call, but he soon gets kidnapped by Chino's men. After getting tortured, Ricky meets Chino, who reveals to him that he just lost his son to police brutality. Confused, Ricky asks him why he has been punished, and Chino reveals to him that it's because of the brothel business he started without his permission. Afterward, Chino makes Ricky watch him kill a policeman by placing a plastic bag over his head. Chino then goes ahead to torture another police officer to death, by first nailing both of his hands to a table with knives, and then kicking him till the knives cut through his palms. Immediately after this, Chino tells Ricky that he owes him 50% of whatever he makes from the brothel, and also requests 100,000 euros in 1 week, threatening to burn down the brothel if he fails. Later that night, Ricky gets dropped off in front of the brothel, and upon entering, he finds his mother sleeping, and quietly lays beside her. In the morning, Ricky gets a call from Angelito, who appears to be threatened by Frida's men. Ricky tries to tell Angelito about his ordeal with Chino, but Angelito soon reveals to him that his life is in danger. It appears that the porn movie director, who happens to be attracted to Mobila, had struck a deal with Frida to help him get her for his next movie. With this, Frida requests that Ricky hand over Mobila to them, in exchange for Angelito. Ricky disagrees and boldly tells her that she can only get Mobila if they release Angelito first. As soon as Angelito gets released, the trio begins to plan how to pay Chino the 100,000 euros he demanded. Realizing that they only have 9,000 euros, Angelito suggests that they add the 30,000 euros they plan to get from selling Mobila's son. However, it still wouldn't be enough. After blaming Ricky for putting them in a bad predicament, Angelito reveals to him that Chino is ready to pay anyone 50,000 euros if they can kidnap Veronica, the police chief's daughter, for him. Upon hearing this, Ricky instructs Angelito and El Nino to go keep an eye on her. Later, Ricky instructs Pura to take Mobila to Frida's store and then go ahead to pick up the lady who wants to buy Mobila's baby using a digital map and then drop her off at the beach. Moments after leaving, Pura calls Ricky, asking him to repeat the instructions. Frustrated, Ricky angrily repeats it, telling her to take Mobila to Frida's store first. Curious, Infantita asks Scrag who Mobila is, and Scrag reveals to her that Mobila works at the brothel, and that she is the mother of the child she is holding. Afterward, Ricky instructs Infantita to take the baby to the beach, where she will meet a woman who will pay her. Now here comes the twist. Instead of taking Mobila to Frida, Pura drives to meet with the couple waiting to buy Mobila's baby, and then instructs the woman to come with her. Shortly after, Pura drops Mobila off at the beach, and then hands her the €30,000 payment in a brown envelope. However, Mobla doesn't bother to check it, since she's only worried about seeing her baby. Following this, Pura proceeds to drop the lady off in front of Frida's store, and then instructs her to go in and mention that Ricky had sent her. As soon as the lady walks into the store, the director begins to yell at her, stating that this is not the black woman he requested for. At the same time as Ricky, El Nino, and Angelito prepare to get on their way to carry out their plans to kidnap Veronica, Angelito reveals to El Nino that Mobila has now been used by Frida as a sex slave. Meanwhile, as Infantita waits at the beach, she makes a call to her doctor to book an appointment for her sex change surgery, as she plans to use the payment for it. Moments later, Infantita spots Mobila at the beach and then approaches her, asking her if she'd come for the exchange. Infantita immediately proceeds to ask for payment. However, Mobila appears not to understand what Infantita is saying and just keeps staring at her. Seeing this, Infantita hurriedly grabs a white envelope that Mobila is holding and hands over the baby to her. Mobila finally reunites with her baby and soon begins to celebrate. Meanwhile, the police officer in charge of guarding Veronica receives Loco into the house through the back door and then accepts a briefcase from him. Upon opening the case, he finds it empty and Loco shoots him dead. It appears that the police officer had planned to sell Veronica out in the first place. Shortly after, Angelito storms in with the rest of the gang and immediately instructs Loco to drop his gun and go on his knees while El Nino takes Veronica hostage. At this point, Angelito sees his long-lost dog, Rocco. However, Angelito gets distracted as he attempts to reconnect Rocco, but Loco uses this opportunity to grab his gun and fatally shoots Angelito in the chest. Unfortunately, Loco runs out of bullets and El Nino attacks him and smashes his head till he dies. Following Angelito's death, Ricky adopts Veronica and then calls Chino to come get her. However, El Nino, who had been driving, suddenly stopped the truck in front of Frida's store, having locked Ricky inside the truck. Soon he walks into the store and demands Mobila's release. Shortly after, El Nino begins to exchange gunfire with Frida's security. Infantita, who appears to be at the wrong place, gets hit in the balls. El Nino ends up killing Frida and her men, but he also gets shot in the belly. Regardless, El Nino continues to search for Mobila, but he soon realizes that she's not there, as it appears that the other lady has been used in her place. As soon as El Nino steps out of the store, he gets confronted by the police. However, he manages to kill them all while also sustaining more gunshot wounds. Ricky manages to break free from the truck and rushes El Nino to the brothel, where he attempts to save his life, but it appears to be too late. At the same time, Pura, who appears to be taking care of Veronica's wounds, learns that she is the daughter of a police officer. With this, she gives Veronica a phone to call her father, and then goes ahead to request 20-year prison sentence in exchange for Veronica. Moments later, Chino arrives and immediately pays Ricky €50,000, and in exchange gets the key to where Veronica has been kept. Ricky immediately begins to pack up and urges Pura to join him, but she insists on going back to prison as she still can't remember having him as her child. Ricky shows her his childhood pictures in an attempt to jog her memory, but she tears it apart and yells at him, stating that she doesn't remember it. Afterward, Ricky decides to go on his way and let her be. On his way out, he gets confronted by Charlie, Veronica's father. Ricky swiftly points him in the direction where his daughter is and leaves. However, Veronica's father meets Pura on his way up, angrily knocks her down, and proceeds to confront Chino. Shortly after, Chino appears holding Veronica hostage and orders Charlie to drop his gun, revealing his intentions to get revenge for his late son. Soon, Chino shoots Charlie in the hands and proceeds to cuff him. Later, Chino shoots his gun close to Veronica's ears in an attempt to torture her in front of her father. This, however, prompts Charlie to confess his involvement in the death of Chino's son. Shortly after this confession, Charlie picks up his gun and kills himself as he can no longer bear to see his daughter suffer. After driving for a while, Ricky decides to go back for his mother, but as soon as he steps inside the brothel, he gets into a gun battle with Chino, whom he ends up killing but passes out after also getting shot in the face. Pura later gains consciousness and begins to cry profusely as she rushes Ricky to the hospital. On the way, Ricky once again calls her mom, but this time Pura answers him, proving that she now remembers Ricky as his son. On the other hand, Infantita successfully gets her surgery done. Meanwhile, Mobila, who now lives on the street with her son, soon discovers that the brown envelope Pura had given her actually contains cash, which will eventually help her give her son a better life. And this is where our story ends. If you'd like to see us recap any other movies or topics you have in mind, just drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit the like button, share this recap, and subscribe to stay updated for the next one. Until next time.